the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. But he also says that, Saudi Arabia basically says that they didn't do it, that the Crown Prince denies any involvement. So he's going to take the Crown Prince at his word. Is that the right decision?
I think it is. I think we just need to move beyond this at this point. I mean, we should ask the question, what if the Crown Prince was involved? We'll still be faced with the same factors in the Middle East. We're involved in a conflict with Iran. Iran has seen itself at war with the United States since 1979, and Saudi Arabia is a fundamentally important partner in that struggle. They spend $70 billion a year on defense. That's 3 times what Israel is able to spend. That money is used to defend largely against Iran. And that's a very important alliance. And also there's a huge double standard at play here. I mean, people in Washington aren't pulling their hair out because another ally, Turkish President Erdogan, there's no ambiguity about him. We know that he intentionally has made decisions that has put legions of journalists into prison. So, really what's going on here is a lot of moralizing and very odd.
Yes, you point out the fact that this is a journalist who was victimized here. But it also says a lot about allowing these sort of human rights violations, atrocities, if you will, to continue with the country, of course, that we lean on very much so economically on Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, then, the president cites that the kingdom's influence over oil prices, by the way, is a huge factor here. And he says, quote, if we abandon Saudi, it would be a terrible mistake. And also said that he's not going to destroy the economy of our country over Khashoggi by giving up the arms deals to Saudi Arabia. Do we need Saudi Arabia more than they need us?
It's a symbiotic relationship. I think it's a pragmatic one. No, I think they need us more than we need them, but they're not entirely dependent on us. They could take, for example, a $20 billion arms package that's pending, and they could easily turn to the Chinese or the Russians in particular. Would be happy to sell them weapons if we were to cut them off. So, it's a very important thing. One thing I would push back on a little against the conventional wisdom surrounding this case is that this man, Jamal Khashoggi, was a journalist. He wasn't really. He wasn't a reporter. He was an opinion writer. He was an analyst. And what got him killed, frankly, was he was on the take from the Saudi government. He was eating at the trough. He was receiving Saudi largesse.
He was very critical of the Crown Prince.
Well, then he turned. And so then he went from being a supporter to being an opponent. Right. And the Washington Post, which frankly has some culpability here, put out his stuff. I mean, he put out articles like how great the Muslim Brotherhood is, how the U.S. should embrace the Muslim Brotherhood. And he did it. The Post did it not just in English, but in Arabic, which really put him in harm's way.
How should Congress respond?
I think Congress, frankly, should do some oversight for real and put the CIA back in its box. The CIA has done a huge disservice, I think, to the president and to Congress in this instance. Those guys across the river, they have a $50 billion budget, $50 billion a year budget, if you look at the whole intelligence bureaucracy, and they're guessing. They don't actually know if MBS was involved in this. They're saying, well, based on what we know about how the Saudis work, then maybe kind of sort of. And then they leak it to the Washington Post in an effort to force the president's hand. So I think, really just need to put this in perspective. And these preening senators, the outgoing disgruntled chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, Bob Corker, really should just hang it up. I mean, we should just move on.
Right. Yes, I know. But the fact of the matter is he was a journalist. I mean, he worked for the Washington Post. There was an opinion side and there was a journalistic side, just like there is here at Fox News Channel. We've got prime time and they are opinion, and then during the day we're news. But nonetheless, he was a journalist. He was writing about the Crown Prince. And if he stood up to the Crown Prince, as most journalists sometimes have to do, his life should not have cost him.
Right. And I'm not saying he deserved and neither is the president, neither is anyone here. We're all saying this is a heinous crime, and it was, and there should be a consequence, and there has been. The president has cut off the refueling mission in Saudi Arabia, refueling their aircraft flying over Yemen. We've we've sanctioned 17 senior members of the royal family. I disagree with you that he's a journalist. I think, yes, at Fox you have opinion, and you have news, and you have it at real newspapers.
We
that
protect
division.
Tucker Carlson when he's got people outside his home threatening his family.
I would encourage your guests to take.
Tucker Carlson not be respected the same way as news journalists, the same as Jamal Khashoggi at the Washington Post?
It's important to realize that this gentleman was an Islamic activist. I'm not saying what happened is what he deserved, but if before we go and throw away alliances that are fundamentally important to defending this nation, which is the president's job, the president's job is not to preen and get on the high horse.
All right, Christian Whiten, thank you very much. Appreciate you talking to us.
Opposition to Nancy Pelosi's bid for House Speaker taking another hit as a potential challenger changes her tune. Can Pelosi get